Start with the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're gonna go right into a public hearing here. At, what time is it?
6:05.
6:05. We'll be going over the floodplain ordinance and the Morton ordinance. So, guess we're gonna open it up to the public.
Which one are you starting with?
Oh, what's that?
Which one are you starting with?
Oh, we're gonna start with the, we'll start with the floodplain. We're gonna go with the easy one. So,
So the copies are on the back, Mr. Chairman, and copies have been on the website for about 3 weeks.
yeah. And, this is something there that, State of Maine, it was the State of Maine?
Yep,
Yeah, the
Jason's
State of
here.
Maine has sent to us, and it's pretty much something that we, recommend us doing.
As I understand it, in order to get flood insurance in town.
Correct.
This needs to be adopted.
So this was the version, one of the versions that the state had told us to adopt, meaning this was the ordinance that they said, adopt this or come June 28th or July 1st or whatever it was, anybody within the flood zone will automatically lose their insurance. So we have, I believe it's 83 properties within Acton that are in the flood zone. That's properties on Great East Lake, Flat Ground Road, Hopper Road, Bulch Lake has some flood zone properties too. So it really is just, and I adopted I was pushing to adopt what the state has provided because it really outlines the process of what they have to do. If you're within the flood zone and you want to build, it just breaks everything down and it makes it so that it's not a guessing game, so I don't have to explain to them the whole process. It really just, they can read it over and figure out what to bring to me before they even need to. So that was really what the floodplain is. In some version we have to, whether we just change some verbiage in the zoning or we adopt this one, we have to do it. And this was the easiest way to do it with just putting it in front of the select board and asking them to put an ordinance in for the floodplain management.
Okay.
I have a question. Article 1, purpose and establishment, the last paragraph. The third sentence,
What page are you on, Nancy?
the very first, Article 1, purpose and establishment,
Yep, got it.
the final paragraph. It says that in a report entitled Flood Insurance Study, York County, Maine, dated July 17th, 2024. I wondered if that was a typo or if
Gotta
that
be.
is indeed the way it's worded.
It's got to be a typo. Jason?
I didn't put it in there, so I couldn't tell you. I know they've been working for years on this floodplain. I was informed on, I think it was right around January 17th, January 23rd, that we had to adopt it. They also told me it was my last notification, but they never gave me a first notification.
But how can the map be post-dated? Is what she's saying.
Because I don't think they're coming out yet. I think
Oh,
they're
you
still
think
working
until
on the
we have-
maps.
until we
I
approve
actually
it?
think the maps are still being processed. I think that was, I really don't have a
double-check.
100% answer on that one, so I wish I did, but.
We'll double check, Nancy.
We got any more questions, comments? No?
It's the easy one.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the Moran policy, ordinance.
So a bit of clarification, David, if I may. Over on the table, there was 2 different sets, one draft labeled Draft 1 and one Draft 2. Draft 1 is what's been on the website and advertised for the last several weeks. Draft 2 is just new tonight that the board is going to take a look at. We've taken in some input that we've gotten from the public, and our legal team has also taken a look at it and made some recommendations. So if you'd like, David, we can just highlight those few changes, and then you can open it up. So there's no changes on page 1 of Draft 2. On page 2, under Section 7, so 1.14 now reads, leasing or renting of 7.14, thank you, Tom. Leasing or renting of moorings for commercial purposes shall be prohibited. You can see the previous statement regarding the one mooring per 50 feet has been removed altogether. 7.16 has been added. Moorings placed adjacent to easements or commonly owned land by those persons entitled to use such land for water or boating access may be maintained in a similar fashion as moorings placed by fee owners. Nothing in this ordinance shall obligate the town to adjudicate or determine the scope of individual easement rights. 7.17 also adds, nothing in this ordinance shall prohibit temporary anchoring of boats in or outside the shorefront mooring zone while the operator is engaged in recreational activities. And those, Mr. Chairman, are the only changes. You did get 2 public comments via email, which I forwarded to the board, you should have seen.
Do you have any questions or comments on the mooring?
Article 10, appeals. It says, "The town administrator shall notify the select board, the harbor master, and the appeals board of the appeal." Should that be the zoning board of appeal? On the very last paragraph,
The town administration shall
or
notify the
next to
select board
last,
and-
Article 10.
Good catch.
So right now, if somebody appeals a building permit, I send them to the town administrator, because if they appeal something that my decision, I can't be involved in it. So the appeals go to the town administrator, and then she distributes it to everybody that needs be. So I think that's,
Zoning
I
board.
think she's pointing out the word zoning is actually not in here.
oh, zoning, okay, I'm sorry.
But is this a zoning ordinance per se? Do we know that the zoning board is going to have, because this isn't going in our zoning ordinance.
This isn't going in the zoning
I'm
ordinance.
not
This is its
sure that
own
the-
standalone ordinance.
Should be.
The zoning board may not qualify to see this.
The
Yeah, I
appeal
guess
board
it's
of the
done.
appeal, I think, should be deleted.
So the town administrator shall notify the select board
And the
and the
harbor
harbor master.
Period. That address your concerns? Thank you.
And then does that mean we have to get rid of the following sentence where it says the appeals board will apply any appellate standard?
Yeah, so we have to pretty much get rid of everything down,
Yeah.
down below.
Good.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes. Good evening, Jay Ward. So looking at Article 7.1, it appears that with the 7.1.7 down the bottom, that it creates a conflict of terms there. Because it's saying in 7.1 that you need written permission from the landowner, and then down below, it says that nothing in this ordinance shall prohibit temporary.
If they're engaged in recreational activities.
Doesn't matter, though, you still go back to 7.1, that you have to get.
Are you talking about 7.1.1?
No, just
Yes.
7.1.
No, 7.1.
7.1.
Without explicit consent of the owner.
And then he's saying that 7.1.7 is conflicting that.
Right, you can't have both sets of languages.
I think what's intended here is for a mooring as opposed to an anchoring. Someone drops an anchor.
It explicitly says anchor.
So do we want,
I understand, but that is, I think was the intent, was to deal with a mooring, which is, we haven't defined in here. But a mooring, as I think about it, is a anchor, a significant anchor, like a cement block or something.
It's on the front page, definition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitions there. But either way, there's still a conflict. If you leave in the language of anchoring,
Okay, hang on.
So essentially, Tom, if you took out the word anchor of 7.1, I don't think it would no longer conflict with 7.17.
I think it
But
would, I think
wouldn't-
you're right.
Wouldn't it with the definitions that we're giving under Article 6, though? I mean, would we want to get rid of anchoring in those definitions then if we're not going to be referring to it, or? But it says under 6.1.2.
Right, but the
and
word
attached-
anchor is used in other parts of the ordinance, so I don't know if you want to get rid of the definition altogether.
But I see what you're saying is that verbiage can be very confusing and people can see that as a conflict or maybe not fully understand.
Let me try this. No person may moor or otherwise affix or secure any boat or any other floating object to a moor within a shorefront mooring zone. It's intended to be addressed, to address moorings as opposed to temporary.
Yeah, a
Temporary.
mooring's obviously different than an anchor. Anchor, you
Yeah.
can pull up, mooring, not pull
Does,
up.
does that address your concern? You want me to read it again, or?
So he's going to remove the
No,
word anchor.
I'd like to see it, and then you should probably have it checked out to,
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll, the council will check everything out.
Right.
But you're probably not going to have a chance to see it. Tonight, we're going to be taking action on this, which will then send it to warrant finance, which will then make its way to town meeting. So if we amend this tonight, that's what will end up going to, on the ballot, if it'll go on the ballot if the board approves it.
so there's no chance for change after tonight, or?
Ordinances are generally not allowed, the moderator normally will not allow changes to ordinances at town meeting. That's the purpose of a public hearing. I mean, so far, they've made 2 minor changes. So I think what I would recommend, I'm sorry?
I think
Well,
this is.
let me rephrase that. As far as the amount of text, let me rephrase that. So the text that's being presented to you, they've made 2 changes as far as what they've removed, since you have this draft in front of you, removing 10.1, the last sentence, and now removing the word anchor. So if by the end of it, you review all of those changes again, there would not be a reason for another public hearing. But I would recommend, David, that you get through all the changes first and see how
Well,
far off you are.
Unfortunately, we make these changes before we send this to anybody. We really ought to have legal,
Right.
make sure it's good.
Then you may have to
So-
push Warren and Finance off a week.
We may have to. So let's go through, make our changes, and
And
that's
the
why
only-
we're here.
The other thing that I think the voters would need is a fiscal note to this, because it obviously will be potentially a pretty big fiscal note if we adopt this, right?
Sorry, what kind of note?
A fiscal note. How much is this going to cost the town? Because you're going to have to designate a harbor master. You're going to, no?
We'll read it. Our code officer will be enforcing it just like he
Right,
does anything
okay.
else.
So then you're going to put a lot more work on him, right? You're going to have a boat in the water? I don't know. So I just think that there could be some added costs, and it could be substantial to this.
Trying to figure out what would be substantial. We've already had discussions about appointing the code officer as the harbor master.
Yeah.
There'll be no additional cost in terms of compensation to the code officer for this work.
We own the boat.
We own the boat. We have a boat that can go out and often does, and the code officer goes out and deals with issues with docks, et cetera, on the lake currently. So we don't expect this to be a significant lift.
It's no different than any other issue that just pops up out of nowhere. I mean, we just deal with it.
I would be
like we go.
surprised that it doesn't take up a lot of the time that your code officer is now doing already. I'm sure he doesn't have a lot of time, extra time to do stuff, but
It's kind of like saying when you pass a new zoning ordinance, is that going to create an additional effort on the part of the code officer? And are you going to have to quantify that and budget for it? I don't think, in this case, at least I feel, there won't be a significant effort.
Well, you made a
I
good
disagree
point,
because I
every
think
time we do a
enforcement-
zoning
Every time you
change-
do a zoning change, what are you going to do?
We just
Adjust the
did solar,
salary or
well,
the
that
budget?
gave a lot of work to
but
the
this
code
is going to
officer,
be a
you
lot
know?
of enforcement. It's not just,
First time nobody's ever asked a question like that.
someone's going to enforce this, right?
Yeah, the code officer.
So the code officer, right, so that's where the costs are going to be. I don't think,
Jay, have we ever asked that question when we did the thing about, going around with the fire department, whether or not, get all these rentals, the solar panels, anything like that?
Because we
It's
never
no
did,
different.
it doesn't
It's
make
all
it
the-
right that we
it's all
don't
the
do it
same.
now.
But it's all the same.
No, I already have to go out and do this already. It's, adding the moorings is not gonna change anything. For my time, I work 4 days a week, from 8:30 to 5. I'm not gonna be doing overtime. I still go out on the water. We have a town boat that I do have to look at the shorelines and make sure development isn't being done, you know, that without permitting. So this really doesn't add much to it, or add it, you know, it's not what you're thinking.
I just think there's a lot of people that are really concerned about this, and it is going to be an issue, but
Jay, I have someone who doesn't live on the lake. Are there any other fiscal concerns other than the time of the code enforcement officer that you are specifically thinking of?
you know, I don't know. I think that's something that should be looked at, because potentially you could have a lot of people now coming forward with concerns
If
because
there's an ordinance on the.
Oh, we have had people come forward before with concerns, and we weren't able to deal with them.
yeah, right. No, I not saying that.
That's what we're trying to, trying to fix here, because at the end of the day, we didn't know what to do, because we didn't know,
We had no ordinance.
hands were tied.
People had issues and we couldn't do anything about it. Thank you.
Come on up, sir. Oh, sorry, Joyce, hold on. Joyce is right there, I didn't see her there. Come on up, Joyce. Sorry.
Thanks, Joyce Bakshi. I'm wearing two hats today. First of all, as a member of Warrant Finance, we will be meeting on Monday to see and make any recommendations on any changes, just standard operating procedure. Now on this, my thing is, if the word anchor was moved, not mooring, anybody can go and they find a great fishing place in front of my house, or Tom's house, or anybody's house, and they maybe drop their anchor, and they're going to fish there for an hour, until they get out. It's the way it is. Everybody owns the lake. There's not a big deal there. If someone is mooring in front of their house, and I think the verbiage is a problem here, they've got to ask you permission first. So anybody who has a home and someone's mooring, they got to ask you. They don't ask you when you've got a boat there from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, playing all kinds of music, throwing parties and whatever all over the place. Call Jason. And don't forget, the minute you see that person who owns a boat happen to walk across your property, don't call Jason, call the sheriff. They're trespassing.
So just to clarify, are you speaking in favor of this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I just
But I think
wanted-
people need to remember,
Yeah.
number one, whoever owns a property on the lake, Tom, you, me, you guys, you own property on the lake, you are the first line to go through. You're either giving permission or you're not. It's that simple. And if you're not, follow through. Otherwise, this gives the town more authority to do something about a problem that may or may not arise.
So you're
Because before this, we couldn't do anything.
You're suggesting we pull out the anchoring part?
There you go,
Yeah.
the word
Yeah.
anchor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Brian Bisson from Abbott Road. Just want to point out a couple parts of this that I and fellow neighbors also have issues with. A couple things I just want to address that Jay brought up, that he got some resistance against, some substantial resistance for, I don't know why, because this is a public hearing. But there is a cost when there isn't, even if you don't need to go ahead and pay a specific bill, there's a thing called opportunity cost. As a manager in the financial industry, okay, when I have my team and I need to take them away from one task that they're supposed to be doing and add another task, that's an opportunity cost, okay? So that should go into factor, to Jay's point. So there is a cost. Also, as far as handling issues currently with moorings and you don't know what to do with them, currently, most property owners actually in their deeds have restrictions limiting where moorings can be placed and limiting them from going over property lines. So there are current ways to handle it. My family knows it very well. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Additionally, inspecting moorings is not a very easy task. And unless someone is actually specifically trained in it, there's a lot to it. It takes a lot of time. What about the grandfathered moorings that are already out there? Okay? Moorings that have been out there for 40, 60, 80 years. God, our beloved Claire Bragg probably mixed the cement to half of them. And are we going to mandate that we take those out or add restrictions to them? You know, waterfront owners pay some of the highest property taxes, more than most of anyone else in the town. And we already have to navigate substantial restrictions and limitations and running through hoops and doing this and doing that. And we want to create an issue that isn't an issue and add more restrictions. Our time can be spent doing so much more of the things. Instead of focusing on a mute issue that's not really a huge issue, that landowners already have a tool to figure it out, which are in our deeds, let's focus on trying to implement some permanent observation of boats entering the lakes so we can stop our lakes from turning into Mousum and our property values getting severely diminished. Some of the reason why we have such high property values on the water are because of some of the factors that draw people to our waters, such as no speed limits, no restrictions on moorings, okay? Those things, I just had wonderful neighbors that bought the property next door, getting rid of the people who weren't so great. But anyways, and if they had, let's say that this passed a year ago, and they were looking at what body of water they want to buy something on, don't you think a mooring restriction might go into a little bit of that thought process? Do I want to buy a place on Great East Lake that I need to worry about where I can place my mooring, what I can do with my mooring? Or I can go to the town over, and I don't have to deal with that.
They're still buying on Grady Slate, okay?
Well, listen,
pretty sure that's
listen,
not gonna
I
stop
don't need you to
somebody buying
debate me on that, okay?
Yeah.
I don't need you to debate me on that like you do everyone else, okay? I don't put up with that, okay? But I'm just mentioning what I have
Sir.
issues with this.
Sir, I'm
and-
not gonna debate you and,
Okay, well then just stop talking and let me finish.
Excuse
So
me, sir.
also,
Sir, I'm running this meeting,
yeah,
okay?
and I'm a member of the public speaking.
And I
so-
understand that, and you're taking swipes at me for, I don't know what reason you're doing that for,
Well,
because honestly, don't, in a second,
No.
sir, I have no, I don't care whether or not you have a mooring in front of your house or not. I don't own any waterfront property.
If you did, maybe you'd care.
Okay, but listen to me. When you're saying there's no issues, there are issues. You don't get those phone calls. We get those phone calls. He gets those phone calls. And not everybody has lakefront property that has all that stuff already structured. There's a zillion miles of waterfront property in town of Acton that has no restrictions on anything. Okay, and when we get those phone calls, okay, we have to deal with them. And then when we can't, because there's nothing there structured to do so, that's why we're having this meeting here tonight. I'm not, personally, I don't care one way or another, because I don't have to worry about somebody mooring in front of my house, okay, because they're not gonna do that on Sanborn Road, okay? But when business has to be done here, okay, we have to be able to deal with it. I have no ball in this game, okay? So I'm not making this personal with you. I don't know why you're doing that with me, okay?
It's not
But,
personal with you, Mr. Runchel.
Excuse
Not
me, sir,
personal at all.
you just did. So if you want to make your point, please do, okay? And,
Well, I'm going to say
move this along here.
that when people do have issues on waterfront, okay, I will speak firsthand. My family had problems on our waterfront with our neighbor's mooring going in front of, their boat attached to their mooring going in front of our place, okay? Yeah, the town has no right to say anything to them on what they can or cannot do. No, we went to court, and we had restrictions put into the deeds. We handled it the current way that we have the ability to handle it. We do not need restrictions on our further restrictions on our waterfront is what I'm saying. It's asinine, and there is an opportunity cost.
Let's watch our language here,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Lee?
Lee Robitor. I've done a couple of things. Number one, I was talking with the people at Borough Parks and Recreation, and the person I spoke to is in charge of all the navigational aids throughout Maine, and his name is Ted Thurston. Ted told me that he asked me, he said, does your town have a mooring ordinance? And I said to him, I don't know. I'll have to look into it. And found out there wasn't one. He suggested to me that the town should consider putting a mooring ordinance in place, that the towns are starting to do more and more of that throughout the state of Maine. And when the people that are responsible for the public use of the lakes is telling you that you should have a mooring ordinance, I think it's time for the town to consider a mooring ordinance. The second thing that I did, I spent some time talking to the code enforcement officers within the towns that have mooring ordinances, and I asked them specifically how much time is spent dealing with issues that come up with mooring ordinance issues. The towns that have harbors on lakes, and there are the larger lakes in the area do have harbors. They have mooring fields. They charge, the towns will charge for those mooring fields, and that takes up a lot of time, and that's where the term harbor master really comes into play, is when you have a true harbor. Other towns that are more like Acton have also initiated these ordinances, and these ordinances are in place to protect all parties. There's a safety issue with moorings that take place in front of people's properties. There is an issue where Green Lake, I think it was, that had a houseboat that was on for the entire summer. And people lived on it for the entire summer, and their waste went into the lake. And that town did not have a mooring ordinance, and they couldn't get the people to respect the property and the lakes. And so there are items like that that come along. My point that I'm trying to make here is that if you have the ordinance, you have the rules that outline it. If someone has property and they want to give permission for someone to put a mooring out in front of their place, there's not going to be an issue because they got permission from the property owner. If you don't get permission from the property owner and you put a mooring in front of a place, that's where this ordinance comes into play. The final thing I'd like to say is that the Square Pond Improvement Association had a board meeting recently, and they were in approval and support this ordinance. Thank you.
There we go. Come on up, sir. Come on up.
My name is Keith Horder. I live on Acton Ridge Road. It's probably the first town meeting I've gone to. I just have some questions about, implementing the ordinance. I'll give you a hypothetical situation. We have a property owner on one side down on Jericho Way. I'm sure you've heard about the complaints and problems. And we have deeded access on the other side. Situation came up several years ago. We have deeded access in our deeds to his property. He owns that beach, but back in the 70s, we were given deeded access. With this ordinance, he might, what's going to happen is the 200 feet are going to intersect. And the way looking at that draft was, if they intersected, we'd have to get permission from him, as our property is right close to his beach. So in a situation like that, I know it's stated here that the town isn't going to get involved, but if we call the code enforcement or harbor master comes down, this guy has a discussion and says, they don't have deeded access to my property, but we have deeded access in And we have deeded access, even though we don't own over there. And we've had moorings there in front that are in front of our 200-foot area on the property line. Is that going to lead to litigation or lawsuits, or as the code enforcement, how is he going to determine who's right and who's wrong in saying you have to move your mooring?
If I understand what you're saying, you have, is it an easement? A deeded right, an easement?
Yes.
That will take you over his property to give you access to the lake, correct?
Say that
Will
again?
give you access to the lake. You have an easement over his property that will take you to the waterfront so you can access the lake?
No.
Oh.
We have one beach, and his beach, say at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
Okay, but our beach stops right there in front of his beach. So his 200 feet comes out, ours comes out 200 feet. I've had a mooring there for 24 years.
Yeah.
If this goes through, he could say, you got to move your mooring. He's going to call the town. How are they going to determine who's right and who's wrong? Because this is a situation that'll probably end up in court someday. I'm just presenting, the time involved and the litigation, and the way I foresee it. This is the way I see the ordinance. Things have changed. Your neighbors are not like they were 30 years ago that they resolved it. It's going to cause a lot of headaches because people are going to want to get the town involved more often, I think. I understand why you're looking at the ordinance. The only question I have, okay, and I'll take it back, is how is he going to make a determination that, okay, we come over and say we have 500 feet deeded access to his beach over there, so therefore our mooring, he's going to say, I've got 200 feet out. Because we intersect, how are you going to determine if that mooring has to be moved?
I'm having a hard time following your situation, quite frankly, to understand how these properties align and why they intersect. And I believe there's a provision in here that says the town will not get involved in those kind of litigation matters between property owners.
Okay.
The town is not going to, my thought is, I don't know that this puts you in a worse position than you are today. If you're going to have an argument with your neighbor over this, and he wants to litigate this, he could probably do that today. At least this will give a framework for that litigation to try to resolve the issue, where today, I don't know how that would be resolved.
Okay.
So I don't think it hurts you any, at all. If anything,
Well,
I think it helps you.
Okay.
So there's some changes that
Updated
we just
draft, yeah.
added at 7.1.6. It says moorings placed adjacent to easements or commonly owned land by those persons entitled to use of such land for water/boating access may be maintained in a similar fashion as moorings placed by fee owners. Nothing in this ordinance, and I think this is what Tom was getting at, shall obligate the town to adjudicate or determine the scope of individual easement rights. So I think what Tom is saying is, you're pretty much with this, you're still going to be the same situation without it, where it's going to be up to you folks to determine, kind of have to
Okay, so
that out.
Especially with easements and
Yeah,
right of ways, that's.
Which is, sounds like
Courts
this
have
is
to
the
deal with
situation you're talking
Okay.
about.
Okay, so you're saying easement when I say a right-of-way to his beach, okay?
I think it's an
500
easement,
feet.
sir.
Same thing.
I think
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
an
because it
easement.
says easement or commonly owned land.
So when you say you don't get involved in that, and I understand why not,
Yes.
why, it leads to lawyers, litigation. You're not going to say you have to move your mooring
No.
because you own that beach over there, even though they have deeded access, you have to move. You're going to say you're going to have to work it out, or it's going to.
The code officer will go out, he'll take.
Going to
a
have to
look-
go to court.
The code
Okay.
officer will go out, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, he's gonna go out, he'll look at the situation, he'll look at the ordinance, and he'll make a judgment about what he thinks is appropriate, given his reading of that ordinance. If one of those property owners doesn't like that judgment, they can obviously take the matter to court. At that point, the town is out of it, it's between you and your neighbor.
Okay, they can't
Fair enough?
force the town to
No.
do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Crutchfield?
Hi, Adele Scritchfield. So I came saying that I thought this was a good idea until I saw the changes that you made. And
What change don't you
What
like?
don't you like?
the fact that you're giving people permission to put moorings on right-of-ways and you're not going to get involved when they do. 7.1.6,
The one I just read.
it can be placed adjacent to commonly owned land by those persons entitled to use the land.
Yes.
Somebody that
And
has
it's
an easement or
maintained
right.
similar and familiar as moorings placed in people that own the land. So we have a right-of-way. There's people who own the land on either side. It's their land.
Yeah.
When I first read this, it's like no one can go stick a mooring out in front of their land, even though there's a right-of-way. And this is saying, oh, well, that's okay. You can do it because you have a right-of-way, and oh, we're not going to get involved in it. Is that how I read that, or am I missing something?
I believe it says that if you have a right-of-way on someone's property that gives you access to the lake,
Yep.
then you can place a mooring within that area
Yeah.
for that, for that.
I don't agree with that. I think that's, why is this in here?
Well, we
Who-
have, this came about from, quite frankly, we have people that have right-of-ways, and they have moorings today. They've had them for years.
Well,
And
that's-
so it was done in recognition of the fact that these people have a deeded right-of-way to the lake, and it seemed, quite frankly, reasonable, I think, to allow them to put a mooring in that place.
It's not reasonable, because there's 10 people that have a right-of-way to that spot. So if everybody's going to go down and put a mooring, just because someone has it today doesn't mean it's right.
Oh.
Maybe you should put something in that it's grandfathered for people who already have moorings and right-of-ways, and no one else has complained about
Are you
it.
talking about a shared right-of-way?
I'm talking about a shared right-of-way.
Oh, okay, I didn't understand that, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. So
There's property owners that own on either side. There's a right-of-way that everyone on the street has a right to put their boat and launch their boat. And this is saying that if they have a right to that right-of-way, that they can put a mooring out there, and you guys are not going to get involved in it. And it's actually giving them permission to do it. Am I missing something?
I can see that concern, like you're saying that means 10 people
It's
could
the
have
same-
10 different moorings.
That's the same exact situation we had up in Peacock Road, and we're trying to get away from that. So Peacock Road, there was an individual that bought a back lot that had a right-of-way on a piece of property, which was common property, okay? And what ended up happening was that individual that had the back lot, from what we were getting out of it, was they had multiple moorings in that cove because they had that right-of-way and they used it. You know, the verbiage could be changed to have written permission from the landowners. Whoever owns the right-of-way should be given the permission for that.
There's
Is there anything that could limit the number of moorings in a place where there's like multiple right-of-ways, like
Well,
one?
they can't interfere with navigation, first off, so there can't be
Well,
interference at navigation.
and that's my point. Anyone who puts a mooring or a swim ball or any swim platform in this right-of-way is going to impede anybody else who's supposed to be able to launch their boat. And I don't want to, have to hire an attorney because you have given them permission to do it,
Well, if they do it now, what would it, you have an interest in the common right-of-way, is that what you're saying? I'm
Yes.
trying to understand what your
Yes.
position is.
I
You have an
own
interest in-
lakefront, but I'm
But you
part,
have an interest in a common right-of-way.
I have an interest in a
Are
common
people
way.
placing moorings in there now?
No, because we've been very specific and trying to control it. But
And
this would encourage people to think that they could do it, because they have the same rights as the
I get
fee
it.
owners.
So
Okay.
how do you discourage them from doing it? How do you discourage someone?
We've
someone-
actually never had the problem because,
Okay, all right.
well,
But you think this is gonna create a problem?
I think it's going to create a problem. We have people buying property all the time. We just sold a piece of land across from us. I don't know who bought it. If they think they can come, and they've already asked the real estate person about it, they're going to think about putting a mooring out there because they're landlocked and they have that right of way and it's access to the water. So why can't we just put a mooring out there? There's people who are putting friggin' docks
Do it
and,
today.
Yeah, they can do it right now.
They can do it right now.
Nothing to stop them.
There's nothing to stop
but
them.
the point is that your original language would have stopped them because it's not their property.
I understand that, yeah.
And now you've changed it, which is not, I don't think it's beneficial. Like I said, I came here, it's a good idea. You don't want someone sticking a mooring in front of your property, and you don't want one sticking a mooring in front of a right-of-way where other people have the right to use that water. And this language, I don't know if you can change it, make it more clear, but it's really encouraging people that they have the right to do it, and they're treated the same as the fee owners.
Yeah, this is, as I got comments about that, this policy, that was probably the most common comment I got. And quite frankly, it went in the other direction. It went in the direction of if you have an easement, you couldn't, according to the original draft, you couldn't get a mooring. And now what it's saying is you can have a mooring. So,
Yeah, I get it.
no, I understand your position, Adele, but there were
So how
many
many
others
people-
who were arguing in the other way, quite
Well,
frankly.
there's probably many others that would argue in my case, because I hear about it all the time. People going in other right-of-ways, putting docks, using jet skis, not having any respect to the landowner, and they think because they have a right-of-way, they can go, and now they have permission, go put a mooring out there. We're not gonna do anything about it because you're gonna have to hire an attorney. I don't agree with it, and I think,
So that person who's buying that piece of property, who's gonna have an easement, and they stick a mooring out there, what are you gonna do about it now?
well, you know what's gonna happen is someone's gonna go scuba diving and cut the mooring up, and the boat will be floating.
You still have that. Someone can still scuba dive. No, but I'm saying, in your circumstance today, what are you gonna do about it? There's nothing you can, because there's no regulation. They can stick one out there whenever they want.
That's fine, but now they would be able to say, oh, there's a regulation that says I can do it. That's the
can now.
difference.
But they can now.
There's no regulation that would give them permission to do it.
There's nothing not giving them permission either.
Right.
Well, exactly. My point is, this would tell them that they're allowed to do it. They're going to be treated just like the fee
Well, they can
owners.
look and
It's
find
my
something that doesn't
understanding,
tell them they can't do
without
it.
an ordinance,
I mean, I don't
anyone
think-
can place a mooring anywhere they want within the 200 mark, within the 200-foot area.
I
So
get it.
people can do basically whatever they want, whether they have,
Permission
you
or
know, waterfront property or not, whether they have an easement or not.
So you get a call from a few people that say, I have a right-of-way and I want to put a mooring out there. So it's like, okay, we'll change. Oh, okay, we got 5 calls. I mean, I could have 10 people call and say that's a bad idea. I mean,
Bill, I can launch out of the Muscle Lake launch right now and set a mooring in front of your house. I don't even have to use that right away.
I
The way
understand.
it is right now, I could literally put a mooring in front of your house.
I understand, and that's why I say I came here saying you guys are going in the right direction. It's a good idea. I was a little confused about the 200 feet because someone puts a mooring 200 feet off their property. It's a little
That's
ridiculous.
state law about.
Okay.
the 200
So,
feet.
so what are you saying? That there's nothing to be done about it?
I think, and I hope people remember, like, that's why we're having this public hearing, is we heard some issues, we heard some feedback, adjustments were made, the opportunities for you folks to come and share this. Like, as somebody who doesn't own lakefront property, like, I'm taking all these notes down because I want to hear your feedback. I'm taking track of everyone who's saying yes and no and all your thoughts and concerns. That's what we're here for. So this isn't set in stone. This is for us to get your thoughts, your opinions, your feedback, and us as a board to decide where we want to go, and then you folks to vote it down or vote it up when it comes to town meeting.
I appreciate it, but you're saying that you're going to put it in the town meeting with the language that's there, and people are going to vote yay or nay.
We haven't voted on
Not
this yet.
necessarily.
This is
Okay.
not, we could vote this down and say, we're not going to recommend this.
Okay,
you know,
so
we're-
my,
But this
my,
public hearing
Adele,
is
what we're
for.
trying to do tonight is trying to get an idea what you guys think of this, okay? And now you've come up with your,
someone else
we've,
thinks
and,
the same way I do.
that person over there might think that what
I
we're
know.
doing is fine. So, I mean, at the end of this here, we don't want to put forward something that's gonna fail.
So here's the thing. My point is, why have that in there? If you don't want to get into litigation about right-of-ways and moorings, why put this in here? What
So
purpose
that's the
does
whole
it
idea of
serve?
having this input. You know, if this is something, if we find this a really big issue, which you seem to think it is, and you're probably right, okay? Anytime you deal with right-of-ways, it's terrible, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's always turns into a crap show. And if this is something we may have to look into further, you know, we can do that.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure we get all the input
Yeah.
and see what we have to change. And if this is something we have to change, we will.
When we talked to council today, he was the one that suggested this change. He said, you want to stay away from right-of-way issues.
So
That
don't
was- That
put
was
it in
his
there.
recommendation. Don't get involved in them.
You're getting involved, though, because you're saying they're allowed to do it. That's my point.
I
Don't-
understand your
Don't
point,
put it in there, and then when it comes up, you can say, we don't get involved, call your attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I guess I'd like to touch on what she just said. So right-of-ways, we get a lot of calls about right-of-ways, and that is something we always divert it, saying it's a civil matter. I understand the language, what you're saying, but some people have deeded access on a right-of-way, and they're allowed to put a dock out there. They might have the same thing for a mooring, but some of these right-of-ways are 25 feet wide, and the shorefront might only be 100 feet wide. So I can understand where she's going with that and the issues that it might bring about. Now, unless your deed specifically states that you're allowed the mooring in front of the right-of-way, that's one thing, but not having that might create a lot of headache. You know, if you just start saying, like what she's saying, if you just start saying, okay, back lots can have, if you have 500 feet of shorefront, obviously there's no right-of-way that large, but you're allowed one, it used to be one every 50 feet. Now it's, what was it, one per land? I can't remember what it was. I don't have it in front of me.
There is no restriction.
Okay, so, yeah, so it really kind of, it does open up a can of worms that I don't want to deal with.
My name's Karen Galately, and I just have one question because I'm just not understanding it. Where Y714 was taken out regarding the 50 feet, just out of curiosity.
There are properties, waterfront properties that have less than 50 feet of frontage.
Okay.
And the way it was written before, they could not have a mooring. And this would, so long as it didn't interfere with a neighbor's mooring, the swing of the boat, it would be permissible.
All right, great, thank you.
You bet.
Lee?
That's kind of what I was going to suggest, that taking out the language of 50 feet, that is supposed to provide the safety measure of how close these moorings can be together.
Yeah.
And by taking that out, you are going to create potential problems with safety, with the boats being,
It does say that a mooring from one property could not interfere with a lawfully placed mooring in the adjacent property. So if someone had 25 feet of frontage and the boat is a 20-foot boat and it swings a matter of 50 feet, and if it's going to interfere with the neighbor's property, they can't do it.
well, the other thing is that these right-of-ways, I believe, and Jason probably can answer this as well as anyone, they are, in the deeds, they are very specific where the right-of-way is across the property.
Usually it's access to and from the water. What you
Yeah.
bring down, you take home with you.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
That's, unless it's, the deed specifically states differently, but that's,
okay.
we've had issues, we had a right-of-way on ours, and we had to take litigations on it, because that town didn't deal with it too, and, you know, the back lot was, put a cabana on the beach, and all the lawn chairs, they never left it, took it off, so, I mean, they are supposed to be for to and from the water, unless otherwise stated.
So is that something we could do in the verbiage of saying, go along with what the deeds say? If the deeds say it has to be, you take in, you have to take out, that would be, and they couldn't have moorings?
Hi, Mary Ann Robitor. Can I just make one comment?
I think the right-of-way is a right to pass and repass, like Jason said. And I think the people that are concerned, that think that they're having their mooring compromised, that have one out there now that's on an easement, maybe, and I'm not sure, but maybe it was just an easement and a single mooring, possibly. I mean, I don't think you're talking about an easement with 5 moorings, or are you?
I think
Are
the
they?
problem is
The complaints that you get.
you have, say if you have like 8 back lots that are
Right.
the same right of way, you'll
Yeah,
have 8 moorings.
8 people.
But I think historically, like he said, it's a right to pass and repass. Your boat goes in, you take your boat out. If it's one person that shares the easement with the owner of the land, and that owner has given that person permission to put the mooring out there, then their
It should still be.
mooring is not going to be compromised. I agree with her. I mean, I think the 50-foot or whatever, it seems logical to leave that in.
Do you wanna-
Just get a read on people. If you want to leave it in or take it out.
you're talking about the ordinance?
The right away.
Oh, the right of way part.
Paul Poyant. I am not a waterfront owner, but there's certain logic here that I sort of feel compelled to point out. So on 713, I think it answers the earlier question about what apparently is a narrow inlet that doesn't allow the 200 feet. So if you can't do the 200, then you can do 1/3 the distance to the opposite shore's high water line, which means, in the way I think of it, is that you've got 1/3 of it is this guy's mooring, 1/3 of it is the other guy's mooring on the other shore, and 1/3 of it is passageway.
That's right.
And if your water goes down, you're losing mooring space on both sides at the expense, to keep that central way open. That's where the deep water is. You're going to lose moorings on both sides. So for better or worse, that's what it means. As far as putting back the common space mooring rights, I think it makes sense. If I was a homeowner, if I was a back lot owner, I would not expect to be putting a mooring in just because I have rights to get to the water. I would assume that means rights to get to the water. And if I were to put a boat in there, economies of scale will quickly screw that up. What if I have, 10 or 15 lot owners back there? All of them want boats, and we don't know how big that access way is. It could just be a launch ramp. That could get real messy.
Believe me, it does. Did.
Oh, the other thing. So on 5.1, first sentence. So if I say we can't have shared ownership moorings, what if in the deed or somewhere else there's something that allows a dock or that allows this or that allows that? The more restrictive provision shall apply. So what we're saying is if you specifically say you can't do X, Y, or Z, then that presumably overrides anything that a deed might say.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but.
Well, it does
I'm not
say,
sure that-
it does say statute, ordinance,
Which number are you on, sir?
5-1.
that's 5.1.
5-1?
So, do you specifically preclude that this does not mean deed? I don't know. Section 2.1, near the end, it says or does not infringe. In my opinion, it should say and, because otherwise you're implying that you can pick and choose which one you want to protect, but you don't have to do all of them. Picayune stuff.
Could you,
No, important stuff.
could you point that change out again, sir?
Which one? 2.1?
2-1,
Last
yes.
sentence.
Yeah, so at the end there's or does not infringe. If you sort of read that through, sort of implies that you can pick certain amounts of those things to protect,
yeah.
but not all of them. So
Yeah.
if you say and, it kind
Yeah.
of ties them up and says this has to be maintained. Oh, and then one final thing is in 716, there's that term fee owners.
Yeah.
Does that mean property owners? 'Cause-
That's a legal term.
Okay,
Came directly from the lawyers.
okay. You might want to put a definition up front,
Yeah.
because you have others. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Could I ask, if you don't mind, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman?
Yep.
I can understand this issue of the easements. I'm curious, it seems to me we've got two options. One is leave it as it is, another is simply strike out the section dealing with easements.
7.1.6.
That first sentence that goes to 3 lines. If people don't mind, I'd love to see a show of hands. Who'd like to leave it the way it is? 7.1.6.
So leave S means
Who'd
leaving
like to
that
leave
in.
it as written in the document dated 3/6/24?
Draft 2.
Draft
2.
2.
Yeah. Is anyone interested in leaving that? Who would like to see that sentence removed?
3, 4, 5.
Okay, it looks like no one was interested.
4. Yeah, nobody wanted to leave it. 4 wanted to take it out.
I saw 5.
If you need a moment to look at that, we'll ask a question again. Yeah. This seems to be the issue.
Yeah,
Is easement. This is the only issue that I've heard so far.
What I found in the past is any time the town of Acton can get away from dealing with easements, it's a really good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. I'm inclined actually to strike it, but.
Yeah.
Can we ask that question one more time? Paragraph 7.1.6, the first paragraph, which deals with easements in the draft dated 3/6/24.
Excuse me, Tom, can we make sure everybody has the correct?
Oh,
It
yeah.
has the. It has the watermark on it, correct?
Yes.
That's the, that says draft 3/6/24.
Draft 2.
Yep.
And they all have a watermark on them. That's the lighter, large print that says draft 03/06/24.
Draft 2.
Okay.
So the question is whether or not, who wants to leave that in,
You would almost take the whole
and
paragraph
then who
off.
wants to take it out.
It references the easement.
So. I was
Come on
trying to
up.
get a question. I was,
No, but it's actually directly pertaining to this.
Come on up, Jay.
So I just want to say, that we have a unique situation. We have a commonly owned
yeah, I know.
beach.
Yeah.
And I think by taking this out, and I want to study it a little bit more, I think it would hurt. And that might be the only place on the entire lake that it
Now,
impacts.
we have them elsewhere.
But I know that it would
That
impact
was one
on
of the
this.
reasons why this was in there.
Yeah.
Was you do have commonly owned property
Right.
from back lots. And quite frankly, we wanted those people to figure out what to do and keep us out of it.
Right, because we have a 200-foot
Yeah,
beach
Yeah.
that has,
yeah, I understand.
Well, we just asked that, whether or not you want to leave that and nobody raised their hand.
Well, that's what we're
that's
gonna
why
ask.
I want to come up and talk about it.
Okay,
because
okay, yeah.
It pertains, I think, for limited, so in other applications, people might want it, but for at least Rogers Brook, I think there has to be an exemption on it.
So do we want to change that language on, well, we want to get the vote first, sorry.
So I'm
We
just
just
gonna
want to
ask
get
the
an
question
idea,
one more
really,
time.
so we're not running around in circles chasing our own tail.
If we could have a show of hands of the people that are interested in leaving paragraph 7.1.6 as written.
1, 2,
1, 2, 3,
5, 6,
4,
7.
5, 6. And those that would like to see that paragraph
There's
deleted.
7.
There's actually
1,
7.
2, 3, 4, including our code officer.
It was 7 to 4.
7 to 4. Okay, well, we just take that under advisement. That's not a vote, it's just taking it under
I
advisement.
mean, it sounds like, at least with that situation, is there any way we could phrase it to use like commonly owned property, or not use the word terminology easement? I don't know, just,
Never gonna get through this.
No, I think, honestly, myself, I got some thoughts, but
I don't-
because I don't really think that we're prepped for this right now.
I don't think we're ready for it.
No.
Nope.
Okay, why don't we take that up in that full session?
Needs more help.
Yeah,
Any other comment?
yeah. Yep, come on up.
So you got like 5 people who belong to one common beach who's dictating the vote.
No, they're
there was
not.
no-
They're not. They're not.
We were just getting for our frame of reference to see.
So my question is there an opportunity for me?
Excuse
to
me,
get-
hold on a minute. Out there, we're trying to run a meeting here, we can't hear. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So I guess my question is there an opportunity for me to get others to send you input who,
We were just discussing whether or not, the reason why we had this, we want to make sure this was something, I myself do not want to put anything in front of the town that I think is going to fail, okay? Now, we were just talking, it might be something where we might have to go back to the drawing board. You
Okay.
know,
We might have to pull it.
we may
Okay.
pull it, okay? That's why we're here doing this.
yeah,
Okay?
I just want to, I know a
Shame,
lot.
but we might have to.
I know a lot of people who don't come to this meeting but would have very strong opinions and input, and this was all a surprise tonight because I know a lot of people that read the original draft and they were all for it, and now you sprung this, and they would be here arguing if they knew about it.
There's no intentional ill will here. We're not trying to do anything nefarious.
I get-
We're
I
just
get- I'm just-
trying to accommodate,
she's just-
and that's why everybody, we're doing what we're doing.
I understand, I'm just telling you what the, what happened, what,
So when we go back into our selectmen meeting, we're gonna have to take action on this one way or the other. And for speaking for myself, trying to assess whether or not there is a version of this that we think we could get passed by the town that would be viewed favorably by the property owners of the lake and those with access. If we don't think we can do that, as David said, we may vote not to advance this. So we may not have a mooring ordinance at all.
okay.
And so that's probably the outcome here. Either we decide to leave it as is, change it, or we pull it all together.
There's, those, and you could also at the same time, I don't know, can you amend to strike that from the ordinance at town meeting?
It depends on the moderator. The main moderator's rule really recommends against it because the purpose of ordinances, they shouldn't be changed at town meeting. They really should be
It may not be
either,
legal if you change it.
right,
Yeah,
up or
yeah,
down. That's the
yeah.
purpose of the public hearing.
So, we may have to do some more homework here.
I can just tell you that, the people I spoke with all for it, we've all read it, lots of people all over the lake, and then to come here tonight, they would not approve this one
It's
change.
very difficult to do anything to do with the lakes are tough in
Yeah.
the first place, because you got a zillion right-of-ways, you got back lots.
Yeah.
You got all the sides, everything varies so much,
Common property.
common
Which is why
property.
which is why you want to stay out of it and not give them rights that they don't necessarily have,
in all-
and then say, but
Don't
don't come
think
to
this
us
does that,
because we're
but-
not going to adjudicate.
Adele, before you go back, I just want to, in all fairness, especially to the people that you talk to and the neighbors, that's the purpose of public hearing. When you see a draft, well, let me finish. When you see a draft of a public hearing, whether it's zoning, whether it's a board of selectmen, whether it's a sex offender ordinance, public hearings are drafts. Don't ever not go to a public hearing because you're okay with it with the way the document is. That's the purpose of a public hearing.
Yeah.
Town meeting is different because it's there to get a final vote, but for people not to come because they assume that was a final, they should be
Okay.
coming.
That's
Just a
good
friendly
to know.
reminder.
That's good to know because that was a surprise.
Yeah,
All
no.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say I agree with her wholeheartedly. I think we should leave 7.1.4 in there mainly for safety reasons. If you get people,
7.14,
because 7.1.4,
Cross
the
out.
50-foot shore.
the one that was
okay.
stricken, because of the swing of the boats. It's a safety issue. It's a hazard. And if you go back historically to the right-of-ways, it's a right to pass and repass. I mean, if they have I don't know about any other issue with.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I was trying to stay out of this because I don't have skin in the game. But I would suggest, because I've heard several comments about people having grandfathered or some type of arrangement by deed, which I question, with rights for moorings, if you could put something in here that would either grant permission or restrict permission based on something is unless otherwise granted by deed.
See, I don't, this whole thing's kind of
No,
throwing me
but
off, Charlie.
I'm just
No,
saying
Charlie,
that
I'm
that's a
glad you
way to
said
get
this,
around that.
But, when we're talking about grandfathered mooring,
I don't understand
kinda
how that works
acting,
because
the person that has the mooring, right? Okay, I'm no genius, but we just went through something here in town where it really taught me a lot. Okay, like over in West Shore Drive, we just put a bridge in. Okay, and come to find out, guess who owns that water and the land underneath it?
State of Maine.
Inland Fisheries owns that, right? So anybody sit here and tell me that they got a grandfathered mooring out there, and, unless the state of Maine has written something down and said that they own that, they don't even own it. So that's the only issue I'm having with this whole
That's the reason
thing.
why I said that. It takes you out of the game.
Yeah.
If you put something in there, unless otherwise granted or restricted by deed, it's a moot issue. Because my understanding is fee ownership extends to high water line. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. They can't put anything in a deed saying they own it anyway, so they don't.
But
So-
if there's something in the deed, that's a private matter to be litigated, not by here.
Thank you, Charlie. Joyce?
Yeah, quickly. Fee of ownership. The one person who owns the particular piece of land, whether it's an easement, anything you want to call it, they're the taxpayer. That one person is.
No. Yes and no, because we have an issue.
We have multiples.
We've got one in town where you have a
I
common property
remember
where
it, yes. We have,
everybody owns that. They all pay out of their
No, no,
taxes, out of their
right.
tax bill.
That's not an easement, that's a common property.
Common
Commonly
property.
owned property.
yes, that's a common, that's not the
Easement,
easement.
somebody actually owns
It's
it.
the
Yeah.
commonly owned property. But the other thing, it's what you just said, David. We don't own the water. The people of the state of Maine own the water. New England, or Inland Fisheries has the authority, I guess you could say, on it.
Yeah. Then-
Without an ordinance,
But the state gives
It's
us the right to
nothing.
do
We
this.
The
need
state of
to-
Maine specifically grants the regulation of moorings to municipalities. They stay out of it.
Then
So they're
let's
saying,
do it.
municipalities, this is your issue to deal with, here are some broad guidelines. And what we did was we took 6 or 8 towns that have done it, and
Good.
we basically modeled this policy after
yeah,
that.
then we should do it. Then let's, and what we have is good. And the other thing, like you said, it's voted up or it's voted down.
Well,
I'm in favor of it, 100%.
yep. So, any more comment, questions, whatever?
Oh, we got one more.
There we go. Yeah.
Hey there, Terry Ball, West Shore Drive. I actually want to thank Lee and the board for attempting to adopt this ordinance. I'm very much in favor of it. I would be disappointed to see this tabled over the right-of-way issue. I think I agree with the young lady, that that the right-of-way issue is of a concern, and I wonder if if common lands or right-of-ways should just not be in, you have deeds for that. That's already, I believe, regulated. So could that, just by eliminating this, as you said, asked for the vote, I would hate to not be able to adopt this because of that one issue. Because contrary to what the gentleman said earlier, and I'm sorry I don't know your name in the hat, just because it's not a problem now, moorings, doesn't mean it can't be. My folks are on a lake over in New Hampshire, and moorings became a huge, huge issue over there. So just because it ain't broke, don't fix it does not apply in this case. I think being proactive is excellent.
Proactive is a really good word for this.
Absolutely, yes, and I appreciate you doing that, and I do hope that you will consider striking the right-of-way issue and pursuing this ordinance.
There's nothing, if we strike that, there's nothing that says that at a future town meeting, if there is some logic that, some way of dealing with this that makes sense, that we couldn't amend this at a future town meeting. So to strike the language, let it go forward without dealing with right-of-ways or common properties, and come back and deal with it at a future meeting.
Yeah, if it becomes a problem, then
Yeah,
we deal with
If
it.
people want to come forward and recommend some change to the language that would protect their interest if they have a right-of-way, then that can be dealt with at a future date. But I personally agree with you. I think this is important to have in place.
Very important.
The state is recommending it because it is an issue in the state. It is an issue where increasingly moorings are being placed and there's no governing ordinance to regulate and/or determine whether or not they're appropriate or not. And so I think we need to heed their warning.
Thank you.
So you think striking out?
I would strike it out myself, and let's figure out how to do it in a way that makes sense and is legal, and we'll come back and do it at a future town meeting.
Where was Jason?
Jason, it's in the hallway. Jason.
Is it, this is the one we're talking about?
Yeah,
right here, right?
7.1.6, yeah.
So, at this point, if we strike out 7.1.6, we strike that out, is that gonna conflict with anything? It's not gonna screw up anything else?
I just think that brings it it makes it hard. I'm going to get a lot more calls because there are a lot of back lots and a lot of small right-of-ways. I think that's going to make a headache for the town, for myself.
So, but if we strike this isn't gonna hurt anything else in the ordinance in your
I don't
eyes?
think so. I think, I was just talking to Mr. Ward, right? Is that what it was? No?
Hart.
Oh, and, okay. Well, I was just talking to him, and they're talking about Rogers Brook Association, and they have a different scenario, but they all do have right and interest to that area. It's an association.
Is it an easement, or do they own
It's an
property?
It's an association, so they all.
own the
So it's
property in
common
common.
Right, so
they're
it's a common
property
land.
owners.
Yeah,
But
so
so
that's
his issue is they're on like a river inlet. So they have property here, and then it's one of those things that can be, it's a different scenario, but.
So, I think the only way we're gonna be able to not push this through, but put this to the voters is I do believe there's probably one thing we wanna do, is get rid of
Strike
that.
that part.
Get rid of that, get rid of 7.1.6.
And there were some other cosmetic changes that were suggested. I'm sorry, I don't recall the individuals.
They wanted
So
to
can we go-
leave.
That were
so
good.
go now
Did
under-
you catch those, the
Yeah,
ones
but I
that
did.
Paul?
She got 'em, yeah.
You got them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it under.
And
new
is there any
business.
other more comment?
Yeah, just a short one.
Come right on up.
I know you're talking about taking 716 out. Do you want to leave that last sentence or put that in someplace?
Nothing in this ordinance to obligate the town, that part?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, huh? I don't know if it's,
Well, it clearly takes
Actually-
you out of it.
Actually, I would make that 7.1.6.
Right.
That sentence.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
make that.
Good idea.
It basically
Yeah.
says the town's not going to get involved in any
Exactly.
disputes between property owners.
Yeah.
thank you,
And
Jay.
I think
Oh,
you've got
yeah, go ahead.
the outstanding anchoring issue, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna turn 7.1.6 into nothing.
The second sentence.
Second sentence. Okay,
Great.
and what other verbiage are we changing in here, just so we're
So
all on
on
the
the-
same page?
On page-
We
Seven-
struck anchor in 7.1.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Jennifer, were you answering that?
That's okay.
2.1,
And we did something on 10.1.
2.1.
Oh, 2.1?
Yeah, it was where the loss of aquatic habitat or interference with navigation. It says or, they wanted to switch it to
And.
and.
Say that again, Dan?
Loss of aquatic habitat or interference with navigation
And does not infringe.
Yeah. And 10.1.
Was there 10.1?
So we're leaving the 7.14 struck out the way it is, the 50-foot, leaving that out.
Yeah. Wait a minute, what is that, Jennifer?
The
seven-
50 feet, we struck that out, but some people were in
Yeah,
favor of putting
yeah,
it back
Leaving that
in.
struck
Yeah,
out,
leave
okay.
it as is.
Making the new 7.16 the nothing, and then on 10.1,
10.1,
we're getting rid of the appeals
Harbor
portion.
master,
period, and
period.
then rest of everything
Period.
else.
And everything else is struck.
There were two other things that I'm interested, someone did mention having fee owners in the definitions, just so that clarification. I don't
It's
know
a
if that's
legal
necessary.
term, I wouldn't define it.
And then
but-
the other thing, since we are taking out 7.16, kind of like what Charlie said, I don't know if we want to do something unless referring specifically to the deeds. I don't know if that is something that we want to put in there, the language about like talking about
the easements and right-of-ways.
I think the
I
deed,
don't think we want.
you don't think you need to put it in there. I think it spells out
implied.
itself. If a deed says you have,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
if you're
it's not
allowed
so-
to use that for this purpose, then that's the deed. I'm not gonna go against it.
Can't
I
regulate
just want to
their
make sure,
deeds.
because people had mentioned something like that, so I just
People
want to
can
make sure we
approve
considered
a
it.
definition of fee ownership.
Yeah. I don't think we need to do that, so at this point here, those are the changes that we're gonna make. We're gonna strike out the easement part of it right away. Okay. Oop.
So we'll review them when you vote on them under
Yeah.
new business, just to
Yeah.
make sure we got it right. Okay.
And I do just want to point out that if this does go to town meeting, that, again, that's the opportunity for you folks, whether you agree with the changes or not, to voice your opinions, to talk to your fellow town folks and say why or why not you support this. So it's important to show up to town meeting, to share these opinions and thoughts, and that's when the final decision. So if these changes are something you don't agree with, show up and vote against it. If these changes are something you agree with, show up and vote in favor of it, because it's, at the end of the day, it's your decision.
We're just trying to be proactive and, okay, so, excuse
Under new
me?
business.
Come on up if you're gonna speak.
You just want to know if we can run through the changes.
When are you gonna vote? Are you gonna
We're
vote
going to
on
be
that?
doing it during the actual town meeting, and we'll go over them then.
What's that?
We're going to be voting on it during.
Yeah, he just
not
asked for
town meeting,
clarification what the
select meeting.
changes were.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, we were just going over that, so.
So they're gonna,
If you're gonna speak, sir, come on up.
Just looking to see what the revised corrections are, because it just sounded like an open discussion, so I didn't know what was actually determined.
I'd suggest you stick around for the Board of Selectmen meeting. They will be reviewed, and we'll vote one way or the other, and then you'll know exactly what is being approved. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Okay, I guess we're gonna, any other comments or, no? Okay, I guess we're gonna close down the meeting at 7:21 and go into our selectmen's meeting.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for that. Okay, welcome back to the meeting. Okay, let's see, we did the public hearing, warrant bills, all signed up?
All signed.
Okay, approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda for the March 6, 2024. select
Second.
meeting.
All in favor? Minutes of the last meeting?
tabled, please.
We will table those till next week. Town Administrator Weekly Update.
All right, just a couple things to notify you of. First is that the planning board meeting tomorrow night has been canceled. They have no agenda items at this time, so no planning board meeting tomorrow night. Next, a quick recap of the election. We had 124 people vote in the Democratic primary, 96 of which chose Joe Biden as their front runner. 359 Republican ballots were cast, with 264 choosing Donald Trump as their top runner. So that was the primary. Everything went well overall. Thanks, as always, to our election clerks. Next is notice that the nomination papers for the following seats are now available in the town clerk's office, must be returned no later than 4 o'clock on Friday, April 12th. Minimum 25 signatures, no more than 100. We have 2 Board of Selectmen seats, overseer and assessor. This is Mr. McGurty's term is up, and also the open seat, because you have now going to have a 5-member board. School committee members, we have Mary Stanton's term is coming up, along with Christina Gardner. And then District 2 Road Commissioner, this was the resignation of Adam Dolliver. Mr. Langley was appointed, so.
Which ran out anyways, I believe.
I'm sorry?
I believe that term ran out this year anyways.
Right, it ran out in June, yeah, but yeah. So anyways, interested in running, those are the seats available. 2 things, so Tom had asked me to put together a workshop. I was looking for your permission to do it at 5 o'clock, because I think it's gonna be lengthy, on March 27th. This would be the engineer is gonna come down and review the road assessment, so the entire road committee would be invited. Mr. Ward left us, okay? So the road committee, and then you wanted to talk about the rec.
Yep.
And also the transfer station. So we would
Yep.
invite all of the appropriate parties, but that would be at 5 o'clock on the 27th.
Okay,
How do you feel about that?
5 o'clock on the
You're
27th.
usually here at 5 anyway, so.
Yep,
Yeah,
okay,
with that.
cool.
And then, I had a visit today from a Comcast representative. They are interested in putting lines in Acton and want to come to your meeting on the 27th at 6 o'clock.
Comcast.
Comcast,
Let's
big news.
talk to 'em.
Yes. So it's, they're just gonna introduce
I don't know,
themselves,
but I think we
tell
should
you a little
listen
bit
to 'em.
about it. I mean, there's
I'm
no,
very excited about listening to him.
anyways, March 27th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah,
27th?
March 27th,
Oh,
so
no,
it'll be
it's
the
it's good to have more
yeah.
choice.
Isn't it?
Okay, and then very quickly, the sheriff's report from the month of February. So January 30th, Sanborn arrested an individual, a 54-year-old individual from Acton, for unlawful possession of scheduled drugs and habitual offender.
When was that?
That was January 30th. They put it in the December 2nd report.
Yep.
This was the individual that there were many calls about him laying on the side of 109 down here, outside so he was arrested. 2-2, Deputy Sanborn received a tip on the location of a stolen Dodge pickup truck. The truck was located off a trail on Walker Hill Road, and they are still looking for the person that did that. February 3rd, deputies reported to a home on Sanborn Road in Acton for a report of multiple shots that were fired by a drive-by shooter. They responded, 60 rounds went into the home,
How many?
which was 60. 60.
Yeah, they told us 30.
Well, I have the report, it says 60. Which was occupied by residents. The shooting is related to 3 drive-by shootings at a home in Lebanon. The investigation is ongoing. February 5th, a Deputy Carr investigated a disturbance, and he charged a 22-year-old individual from Sanford with assault. February 8th, they stopped a vehicle for speeding on Ross Corner Road. The driver, blank of Shapley, was believed to be impaired and was arrested for OUI. Road rage incident on February 11th. Deputies investigated the report of a road rage on Newfield Road in Ross Corner. And investigation is continuing. February 19th, the sheriff's office conducted 2 search warrants at 2 locations in the town of Sanford. Let's see what this has to do with us. This is a result of the ongoing investigation, the drive-by shootings in Lebanon, Acton, and Wells. February 19th, sergeant stopped a car for speeding 30 miles an hour over on Shapley Corner Road. The driver was charged with criminal speeding. February 21st, deputies responded to a home on Hubbard's Cove Road in Acton for a suicidal male with a handgun. There's an individual there. Yeah, that'll be enough of that one. And February 25th, individual in Shapley was arrested for assault and domestic violence terrorizing. And the last one, February 25th, the deputy responded to a home in Acton to report of a 14-year-old girl, female, had been assaulted by her sibling, causing injury, and fled to the deputy's home. Juvenile's parents were located, and she was transported to the Sanford ER, blue papered, and eventually released with a summons, the sister. So,
Wow.
they've had a busy month.
Busy month.
Very sad. I lost my cheat sheet. Oh, Comcast Thursday, that's all I have.
Okay. What are we doing here? There it is. Okay, we're gonna go to the liaison updates. Tom, you got anything? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Department Head Committee Chair. I'll throw it off with that.
Will Langley, Road Commissioner. Last Wednesday night, we had that windstorm come through with the rain and everything. We ended up having, I think, like 7 trees come down altogether. We had 4 on Milton Mills. We had 1 on 109 between Garvin Road and Hawk Road. We had to 109 was shut down for quite a bit of time. Then another one on Peacock Road. I went out Thursday morning. We cleaned them up, so we got them off the road and everything. We ended up sanding all the roads there Wednesday night too, because it started to get wicked cold, and everything. And then Sunday I had to go out. I got a call from an individual that a stop sign got stolen, so I went and fixed that. And at the same time, I rode all the roads, and I got quite a lengthy list for things we got to fix in the springtime. So
Washouts and
yeah,
that one over the Hopper's getting pretty bad.
Yeah, there's quite a length of them. So once we get the roads unposted, we're probably gonna start on getting those fixed up. So
I went down across through there the other day. I don't know if you guys have a 1-ton or something small. You can at least throw something in there. It's getting
yeah,
pretty bad.
there's like 1 or 2 on Riverview. I'm gonna go up and take care of this week.
This may be too late, but do you have enough funds to deal with these issues?
Yeah, I got my expense summaries, I believe, back in January, and I think I'll have enough money in there to,
Well, you'll have some left over from this year.
Yeah, yeah.
And also next year, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
I don't know how extensive the problems are, I just want to make sure. you
no,
have
it's
them.
just a lot of maintenance
Okay.
work, but no, we should be all set for the spring, so that's it.
The sign on Hopper Road's missing too.
The street sign is? Okay, all right, I'll take a look at it this week. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Any more department heads? No? Committee chairs? Okay, now we're gonna go to liaison.
I had nothing.
Nothing? Dan, Ed?
Nothing.
Dan?
I attended the school budget committee last Thursday and then also the warrant and finance committee following. We went over just the school warrant articles.
Good, great. I actually don't have anything. We haven't had any road committee meetings lately.
No, it sounds like we've got one
And we
coming
got
up.
one coming up. And the rec committee, I haven't been to one of the meetings in a while, probably ought to.
They haven't had one since.
You haven't had one?
No.
Oh, well, that's probably why I haven't been to one then. So, okay, I guess we're gonna move on to old business then. 24, 25 warrant.
All right, so I sent you gentlemen home with a warrant to proof. Good news is you'll have another week of the homework because it sounds like we're gonna make some changes of the mooring ordinance. So if we can just go over that and look for recommendations so I can have the document ready for them. I'm gonna review it one last time. And he left, okay, but we'll review it anyways for the record. Okay, so we're working off draft 2. So Article 2, 2.1 is now going to read the last sentence, third sentence down, or interference with navigation and does not infringe on the rights of the shoreland property owners. That's change number 1. Nothing else on the front page. On section 7, we are going to remove the word anchor, so no person may moor or otherwise affix, is how that's gonna read. 7.14 is going to stay as bolded and underlined. The strike-through of the previous 7.1.4 will stay, that will be completely removed. 7.1.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Are you saying you're going to leave it bolded and underlined in the final copy?
Oh,
or
no,
you're
no,
just
no.
leaving- Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to
okay.
clarify which one
Yeah,
was staying and
okay,
going.
fine.
7.16 will now read, "Nothing in this ordinance shall obligate the town to adjudicate or determine the scope of individual easement rights." And 7.17, which was new on this draft, will stay. And then the last page, 10.1, the last line will read, "The town administrator shall notify the select board and harbor master." Period. Those are the changes that I heard you,
Hold on a moment.
oh boy.
Okay, that sentence is
Should that say
referring
of
to,
an appeal?
what are they notifying them of?
The appeal.
The appeal? Okay, thank you. All right.
Is that your wishes for it to be as presented?
I think it's a lot better than what it was.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
I think it takes into everything that,
think it
or most
works.
of everything that people mentioned at the public hearing.
I wasn't fully in favor of moving it forward, but I am now.
I'll make a motion to move the mooring ordinance as revised.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, so,
I'm gonna hash it out at town meeting.
so we're still on the warrant. So Article 6 was to see if the town will adopt the floodplain ordinance. So you made no changes to that, so we're looking for a motion for Article 6 from the board.
I move that we recommend the adoption of Article 6, the floodplain ordinance as written.
Seconded.
All in favor?
4-0, and then Article 7, to see if the town will vote to adopt the mooring ordinance as revised this evening. Motion?
Can we just make that?
No,
You
that
made
was the
a motion to
floodplain.
move it forward, but we gotta vote on the actual
So then
warrant
I
articles.
move
Oh,
that
okay.
we
Got ahead of me.
make the recommendation to adopt Article 7, the mooring ordinance as edited, or as
Yes,
amended?
either one. We're gonna edit it and stick it right in here, so.
Seconded.
All in favor? Okay.
We'll
Okay.
get that prettied up for Warren and Finance for Monday. Are you making goo-goo eyes at the audience?
I can't help it, my beautiful wife.
I see her, I can notice that. She's still working on the painting.
Excuse me, folks.
We're gonna have to keep Tom under control here.
We may want to hurry.
Okay. All right, David, let's go.
Okay, we're gonna move on from that. Okay. New business, Grayson's legacy request.
That's you, Crystal.
Good evening. First, I'd like to introduce myself. For those that don't know me, my name is Crystal Andrews. Samantha Singleton and I have been fundraising in town to donate to other organizations the last 3 years. In May 2023, we decided we were going to become an official nonprofit ourselves. That's when we established Grayson's Legacy. It's named after my firstborn son, who never made it home from the hospital. It's the thought that he would have been one that would love to help others. Our board members are Samantha Singleton, Director President, myself, who's the Vice President, Kayla Bleakley, who's the Treasurer, Christine Flaherty, the Secretary, and Virginia, who's a member at large. We come to you tonight because we are starting to host some free community classes, nothing that is currently offered and nothing we profit off of. The one in particular we are wanting to talk about is our kids' yoga class. There's no fee, no profit. We are asking again to revisit about charging a fee for using the meeting hall space, given we are a nonprofit and not making off offering these events, but instead helping to bring more options for our community. Thank you for your time.
I might as well stay right there.
Sorry.
I should tell them don't run off yet. So, what's the fee?
So it's a $50 deposit and $50 to use it. So if you leave the hall the way you find it, you get the first $50 back. So 50 essentially, unless I don't get my key back, then it's 100.
Okay.
I see.
Okay. So, now what is this thing you're gonna be doing?
We're going to try to offer free community classes. We're not going to do anything that's already being offered in town. I've talked to Elise at the library. They are not able or interested in this time in doing the yoga kids class again. So she asked if we would do that and some other free community classes. We wouldn't profit from it. And if there's a fee for people to come and do the class, we would cover and sponsor most of it, but we won't make any money from it.
So you will charge a fee if you have expenses, or?
No, if the person doing the class charges something, but most that I talked to,
Like an instructor?
yeah, most that I talked to have been willing to do it for free. Like the kids' yoga class will be completely free for the community.
Well, I do have a question. You said you would cover most of it. Is there an exception where you wouldn't cover most of it?
We're doing a kids safety class this Saturday actually at the school. And so we're covering half the cost, and we paid $400 to cover it. And we're sponsoring actually 6 kids we're fully covering. If they can't afford to pay for it, we would sponsor them fully. But most of the classes we offer here will be free.
The ones that you offer at
Yes, here.
town hall space?
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of safety class is it?
The kids' safety class, they learn about, they like to say tricky adults, not dangerous stranger. They're going to learn about animal safety and just learning about the signs to look for and who to get for help.
That one's at the school. So
That's at the school. That wouldn't be here, yeah. Because the instructor has to charge a fee for her time, so we're covering half the cost. But
I guess I'm confused. I'm sorry, Tom.
No, you go ahead, I'll wait.
You're gonna cover half the cost. Who covers the other half of the cost?
the parents at the safety class.
Okay.
Yeah, but we actually put it out there that if the families can't afford the class, we would cover it for them completely, which we did for some of the kids.
That was the school.
That's at the school.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. But, I mean, it's not gonna happen here. It's the same idea.
Yeah, all the instructors that I talked to, the yoga class will be free. We'll get people to do the free classes here.
So are you looking for permission for just one event for this yoga? I thought I saw something about an Easter hunt or.
Yeah, we decided not to do the Easter hunt because of Terry's doing one, and we didn't want to take that, yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, yep.
We don't want to conflict with others.
Right, that's why we're not going to offer anything that anybody else is doing in the town.
I don't know if you saw the last meeting on tape, but this issue of use of town hall has come up, and we'd like to develop a policy, and we talked about some of the aspects of that I think were relevant. For me, it was any sort of for-profit activity, even though nonprofits can make profit, and it's just how they use the proceeds.
Right.
So, but we don't want there to be any kind of revenue generation going on in town.
Yep.
If there were events with children, do we have policies on thinking about the protection of children? For instance, do we have any policies on who's here to supervise the children when they're here? No, we don't. Is that a concern for us?
Are you talking about like liability or who's in the?
I don't know. It's like a daycare
Right.
center,
Well,
and it's,
I think most
you
of
know,
the
the background checks.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to get overly bureaucratic,
Yeah.
but if we hold an event here and someone's child is somehow, I'll say, abused, and, you know, certainly the organizer would be responsible. I'm not sure that we would as well, that we let that go on.
I can
think
certainly
what-
ask council,
What we
but I
ought to
wouldn't
be
think so.
doing is, have, council make up something like a waiver,
Right.
get all
Yeah.
responsibilities.
And there may be a blurb in there. It's been a few
Yeah.
years since we
But
looked at it.
We've been
There
doing
is an
birthday
agreement,
parties and
yeah.
stuff for years,
There is
so-
an agreement that they signed.
But this is
We have
sort
some
of
policies.
birthday parties. I assume they're family.
Jen, we do have our own insurance
bunch of
policy.
Yep. Did you hear that, Tom? They have insurance.
We have insurance policy for that. And Samantha Singleton and myself and all board members do have a background check through the town. I was on the Act and Rec committee last year, and we all have background checks, and some of them are CPR certified as well.
The
Well,
event, you're just looking to do one event right now.
Well, right now to do one, and in the future offer more free
You have to
events.
come back to us to get whatever other events you want to do.
Okay.
So-
Yep.
Yeah,
I can do
so
that.
you're asking right now just for us to waive this one event, correct?
For right now, we're hoping in the future to offer more and to waive the
Hopefully
fee.
by then we'll have a policy and it'll be clear what's permissible and it's
Okay.
not.
When, do you have
So
a
we
date
aren't
and
so
everything?
arbitrary.
I don't, because I was waiting to hear back from you guys.
Do you have a tentative date? Like, if you did get the approval, did you have a date in mind of when you would be looking to do it?
I was talking to the instructor. She wanted to start in the spring one day. I think she did it on like a Wednesday or something like that after school, like around 3 for like an hour.
Well,
Oh, is it ongoing or is it one class?
For a couple, she did it for a couple weeks, like a month.
how long do these classes take? Just because we do have select board meetings every Wednesday. That's
Well, it didn't have to be on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just throwing it. I don't know what day she did it last time.
Let's figure this out
I'm still not
here.
clear what you're asking for, Crystal.
So you're asking for multiple days with this yoga instructor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if we give you authorization, we only do a one time, that doesn't really accomplish a whole lot for you, right?
Well, we can.
Did she have a session, is like a 4-week session? What are the specifics of what
Well,
she's?
she did it for the library. She did it for a month. So we were talking about doing that again, but if you want to do just one session for now, I think she'd be okay with that, so we can get the ball rolling.
Is the library not interested in doing it?
They don't want to do that.
Okay.
no.
She indicated that
Yeah.
Elise asked her to do it, so.
So-
Yeah, I've talking to Elise about,
Then they can do it.
but she's not able to do
I have
anything
no
like that.
problem doing it As long as, I have no problem doing it here, waiving the fee. The only thing the fee is though, you have $50, you get it back anyways,
Well,
right?
there's two different $50 fees.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I would still ask to do that because in
There's
case they
still the
don't clean.
deposit
Right.
for $50.
Right, and we get
Keep
it,
clean,
we
you
get it back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I
We'd have to
understand
do-
that.
We'd have to do that, just in case, we have to hire someone to come and clean up, that would be cool.
No, we understand that.
So,
Yeah.
I think, like Tom says, we gotta get a policy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give her a 3, we'll grant for now.
How many weeks is the program you're
To a mo-
gonna announce?
She did it for 4 weeks, for a month.
So why don't we
4 week you-
authorize the 4 weeks?
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Fair
Yeah.
enough?
Just for
And
yoga.
anything beyond that, you'll have to come back.
Yeah.
We'll come back, okay.
For the yoga.
Hopefully we'll have a policy.
Okay, that's fair enough,
Yeah, 'cause
yes.
we definitely gotta figure out some sort of
Yeah.
policy. 'cause
Policy, yeah.
Over the years, it's just been kinda whatever. and
Yeah. just-
Yeah,
It really puts us in a spot, but we just wanna make sure there's nobody coming in making
Yeah.
profit or doing.
right, no,
whatever, so.
we don't, any fundraisers that we have a different location for that.
So there would be no fundraising at these events?
We
at
wouldn't
these-
make any, nope, no fundraising, we wouldn't make anything.
Thank you.
And is the yoga instructor being paid
No,
by you?
Nope.
Not at all?
nope, she's donating her time.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay, awesome.
Now,
So-
she's got to pay the $50.
Yeah, the
the fifth
Is that
deposit.
going to be 50 once or 54
I
times?
mean, I think we could, if it's a 4-week continuous session, I think we can get away with once and.
Well, yeah, just doing one,
leave it
just don't give her the $50 until after the 4th
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Right? Is that how we're gonna do that? Okay. We're trying to spell this out, so we're all on the
You know,
same
I
page
got
here,
it.
you know? I feel wicked smart right now, you know?
All right. Reach out to me, we'll schedule some time. Sounds like you got the waiver for this one session. We'll see how
Okay.
it goes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now down to cleaning bids.
Was that me? All right, so I'm sorry. So we, I was so all done for the night. All right, so we've been advertising it. Staff has been gracious enough to be plain cleaners. Somehow as administrator, I got stuck with the bathroom, so we're anxious to move on this. I'm over it. All right, so we've had a lot of people come and look. We have 3 people that have come forward. They've all have liability insurance. One of them, so in no particular order. First one is AAA Cleaning and Maintenance Services, $300 for a weekly cleaning.
Any references with these folks?
We did not request references at this point.
Okay.
Because the cleaning is done, the cleaning had to be done on Thursdays from 9 to 12 because
Okay.
the building is
I
staffed.
guess if it's bad, we won't continue it, right?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on them.
By the way,
The
Jen
next-
can do it now if we need to.
The next is House a Home LLC. They are out of Shapley, $180 a week. And then also, there's no company associated with this one. His name is John Garreau, also a new Shapley resident, recently from Portland. Brought their cleaning company with them from Shapley, $120 a week.
Oh.
So we were paying $120 before when the.
So we're already budgeted for it.
We were budgeted, yes.
And they all offer the same, there's no one
I
else
walked
offers
each one of
any-
them through the same process, showed them what I wanted done.
Any reason not to go with the low bidder?
I do not know the low bidder, so it's hard for me to say. I mean, nothing that,
There was no
No.
issues that you saw?
I mean, I met with him for 10
I don't know
minutes,
any of them, so-
I'm not speaking on his behalf, but I only met with him for 10 or 15 minutes, seemed fine.
What was the difference between the low and the second?
120 and
$60.
180
Oh,
was
yeah.
the next one.
The third bid, it seems to me,
300.
is
Yeah.
the 300. We can
Right.
discard that one. So we're down to 2, but I don't know why we
Well,
wouldn't go with
there's
the
a
low
60,
bidder.
there's $60 difference.
Unless they're offering something
It's
extra.
60,
I don't
it's,
see
about
why we wouldn't.
$700 a year, so not inconsequential.
I make a motion, we go with, John
Garou.
Arnu is what,
Garou?
Arnu, yeah, that's fine.
Garou. I don't wanna butcher the name. You got that?
Yeah, where? Guru.
Garou, okay, I was
Okay.
close.
It looks like Ray, maybe you want to do it later, but he has a comment.
Oh, well, why don't you come on up first there, Ray, before we get into this?
You're
What's
not
up?
gonna recommend I keep doing the bathrooms, are you?
No,
Check it.
no. I was just wondering, before you make a decision on this cleaning bids, wouldn't references be a good choice? I know we didn't request them, but I would think in the long run, it would be good to have references from people before you give them a job. Especially on something like that.
The thing about this here is, it's weekly.
Yeah.
If they don't do a good job, we fire them.
Yeah.
So,
There's
I think.
no contract, right?
No, they're
so-
independent contractors, and they're,
Is somebody here while they're cleaning?
yes.
Okay, fine. So
Yeah,
it's not like a, security issue.
It's not like it's like a year-long thing. Like
If we don't
I
like
do-
them, we'll
I-
go to Plan B.
I appreciate it, Ray, I think in this case here, instead of dragging this out any further, we're gonna do a test run on this one.
Yep.
We can, hire them.
Do we vote on it?
I made a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay. Hey, you wanna pass that over there, Tara, please? Okay, we are done that. Now we're down to public comment. Woo-hoo. There we go.
I just want to make clarification. Tom, you said that the town has no say on the mooring issue. But under Article 9, enforcement violations and penalties, if we're going to enforce, I was talking to Jason, he said after the 14 days, as it reads, after 14 days of notification, then you get either $100 up to $250 fine.
Yeah.
And for each consequent
I'm
day.
not sure I said exactly what you're suggesting. I'm aware of that provision, so the town does have a role.
I think it's talking specifically to the easement situation.
To the
is
easement,
what
yeah.
you're
Oh,
saying
okay.
the town has
All
a
right.
role in something like that.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Good job, Dan.
Okay, any more? Nancy?
I want to commend the selectmen on their
fiscally conservative approach to budgeting, and a lot of us are aware that we have a sizable surplus, and I'm glad it's being invested at the best possible rate. However, we did spend quite a bit of money on the Capital Improvement Committee's recommendation to have someone evaluate the town facilities. And my concern is that it's nice to, make money on the surplus, but I think we really have to start looking at our town facilities, and when we do have a comfortable financial situation, that's the time to act and improve on them, because it's the charge of the government to provide services and facilities for the townspeople. And I would like to see this move forward.
Are you talking about the town hall complex?
Well, that,
more
as
broadly?
well as there's problems over at the fire station with the paving. Their drainage of water is, it's jeopardizing their equipment because they can't wash it down and keep it clean as they need to. So there are several areas of concern, I think.
First I've heard of this, Nancy.
No, I mean, we definitely want all our department heads, if they need something, to come to us, but they haven't come to us really.
Well, I think you need more than that. I think you need a big picture and
What would that big picture
plan
be?
for moving forward. When the library is clearly inadequate. When this building was built in 1988, the town's population was perhaps half of what it is now. Well, more than that, but it was not what it is now. And the bathrooms clearly need something being done, as Jennifer had said. The rampway is inadequate. The slope is too steep for good handicap access.
Right.
Am I correct
They knew
in
that.
saying
Yeah,
that?
they knew that, yeah.
Yes, and I mean.
But that just came about a week ago, so that's not, that was our election
I'm sure that
training.
even your office computers, I don't know the last time.
No,
they were-
we buy them regularly. We have a
Oh,
budget
that's
line for
good,
those.
good,
Absolutely, yep.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, but there are other facilities in town that I
Yeah,
really
it
think
was-
we need to take a look at.
As far as the fire station, they were asked to submit a capital budget, which they did. And I know there was an issue with the drain, and maybe that's what you're referring to.
I believe
They
so,
withdrew
yes.
that item.
Yeah.
They withdrew that.
They withdrew it.
So
Okay.
I assume that meant that the situation
All
was
right.
manageable.
Well, that's good.
So
Good. As long
maybe you
as-
know something that we don't.
No,
But
that was what I understood
I think with
from,
capital
the fire
planning,
chief's
with capital planning,
presentation.
where you've got so many potential items, it's going to come down to a matter of priority. And the board, I think, has made an effort to prioritize where it thought its biggest needs were. One of the things that we did was had the road assessment done. That is our largest asset. It requires the most ongoing maintenance of funds. And I think until we understand what that requirement is, it's difficult to think about, well, let's do a renovation for town hall or the fire
I'm
department.
not saying that.
No,
in
no, I'm just trying to address
specific,
your
but
concerns.
I'm just saying, look to the future and what your needs are going to be, because the town is clearly growing,
Yeah.
your tax base
Yeah.
is growing.
Yeah.
So, when you guys have figured out the tax rate, the relationship between your budget, what you're budgeting for, and what your tax base is.
And what we've done this
So-
year, and thanks for commending us, we looked at this, we've done something this year that we haven't done in a long time. We actually look at actual expenditures, and may have kind of screwed us a little bit, because every year, okay, we look at, taking our undesignated fund, take 500 here, we want undesignated fund from the school, okay? And you mentioned all this money that we have in the bank, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because by doing the budgeting that we did, we're hoping people come out with zero in their budget at the end of the year. We didn't, there's not gonna be any fluff like there has been. Well, the problem is, when you don't have that fluff, that money that we've got in the bank, at the rate we're spending it, It's not gonna be there very long.
Well, I don't know.
No, I do
It used to
know.
be that when you sign your weekly bills, you have an expense report, so you know exactly.
We do.
That you look at and you
Do.
know
But
what you have.
what's been going on over the past many years, the reason why we have $3 million or less of that in the bank is because it's been over budgeted.
Right.
Okay, people been putting, doing their budget, and then when they have 100,000 here, 100,000 there, and we come up with a $500,000 or $600,000 surplus every year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we budgeted this year not to have that problem.
Right.
Oh, because everybody came to us going, oh, geez, overtaxed us. So we went down the nitty gritty and said, okay, if you didn't spend your 80,000 at the fire department, you're not going to get an extra 18.
Right.
Okay, so, but the problem is, at the end of this year, if it goes the way we expect it to go, we're not going to have a $500,000
Right.
surplus.
Right.
Well, every year, we're spending $1 million more, so where are you going to get that money? It comes out of our undesignated fund, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we only got a couple $1 million in there, that's only going to last us a couple of years, unless we start raising taxes. So, and I understand we got capital projects we've got to do, but
Yeah.
we also got to look at, make sure that money that's in there is not just there.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't think Nancy's saying use
No,
it.
and I know that,
She's
but-
saying there needs to be a plan.
Part
But
of my point is with a
Yeah.
growing tax base.
Yes.
If you keep your tax rate stable, you're still going to come out with more money,
No.
a surplus
No,
at the
no,
end of the
you're wrong.
year.
Yeah, I'll tell you why, Nancy. Between what the school used of its unappropriated, undesignated fund balances, which I think was 200 and some odd thousand, to lower the impact on taxes. The town used 500,000 of its undesignated fund balance to lower the taxes.
Okay.
That's $700,000. And what David's saying is if we don't have surplus, that fund's not getting replenished.
Right.
So if we continue to spend from our reserves in future years, like we have over the last couple of years, we're not going to have any reserves left. So what's going to happen is taxes are going to have to go up.
Right.
And the question is, how much are they going to have to go up?
Right.
But I believe that's inevitable, because we can't continue to fund current operation with reserve money, which is what we're doing.
And the reason why I said what I did,
Right,
reason why I
that's
said what I
right.
did was because that reserve money keeps getting brought up like it's not gonna be used.
Yeah,
I
it's-
believe that's our saving grace right now for 2 to 3 years, and after that, so we're gonna have to start figuring out our capital projects, and we're gonna have to raise taxes to do that.
So I guess what concerns me is that reserve fund from over budgeting, or is it from
Undesignated-
money that's been
undesignated
put
fund.
aside?
No, it was
From-
not
for-
intentionally put aside. It was surplus, unplanned surplus,
Yes.
that was generated in prior years by a combination of the school and the town.
Okay,
Both units had unplanned surplus. Last year, it was 1.1 million between the two units. So, but we spent $700,000 in order to keep the tax rate down. Well, if we now are budgeting closer, we're not going to have $1 million surplus.
There's gonna be a cliff at some point.
It's going to stop, and we're going to have to stop drawing on reserves, and that's going to cause taxes to drop, to go up.
okay. But I think that we still have to look at the big picture and what's going forward, and then include that in our fiscal
You're talking about the
planning.
capital?
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. I
Yes.
agree with you,
Yes.
Nancy.
I do too, Nancy. I'm just trying to, when you mention the surplus money that we got aside.
Well, it
I
seems like
like
a
to
lot.
explain that because a lot of people don't understand that we're offsetting our taxes every year with that money.
Right.
And it's running out.
Right,
It's gonna-
because you're
This
using that
conversation
to
goes out on the
lower your
airways,
tax
and we want to
rate.
make sure that people clearly understand when we get talking about capital needs, that people understand what's going on economically with the town's budget, and so that there are no surprises.
Well,
at some
I
point.
think it probably needs better explanation, because there are a lot of people around town, And the word is, oh, we've got all this big surplus.
I think Tom's done multiple presentations, and he's done,
Yeah.
for someone who's not really great at numbers, he's done a great job in explaining it.
There's a lot of people that we've explained to and they still don't understand it.
Well,
So,
that's probably true.
yeah, we try our hardest.
Or they just don't want to.
Oh, they don't want to, and, you know,
Thank
big
you,
bad
Nancy.
selectmen have been overtaxing us and, you know, so, okay, we're gonna move on from that.
Any
So,
other-
any other public comment? Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
yeah, any motion? You made it?
I made it.
Seconded.
All in favor? Good night, everybody.
I know you are.